the Camilita Podcast. This is where you learn to live like a champion. On today's episode, I have got a woman that I have been following for years on TV. She doesn't know, but my God, she inspired me so much just looking at her. Denise Nurse is an award-winning entrepreneur. She's a solicitor, she's a broadcaster, and so much more. In 2007, she co-founded Halberry, a pioneering UK law firm. Imagine. Halberry introduced flexible and agile working hours in the legal industry and was a leading business in diversity and inclusion. In 2008, Denise sold that business to a global legal services company. She'll tell us why. Whilst working as an in-house lawyer at Sky, Denise won an internal competition to become a presenter. She presented for Sky News, Sky Travel, Sky One, and where I saw her a lot, Escape to the Country. I absolutely love it on BBC One. Denise's contribution to law and business has been recognized with several awards, including the Precious Award, Entrepreneur of the Year in 2015, UK Diversity Legal Awards for Diversity and Inclusion, SME Law Firm in 2016, We Are the City Rising Star 2017, listed in 2018, Time Wise Power 50 list, and listen to this, Woman of Influence, Power and Law in 2020. Let's welcome to the Camilita Podcast, Denise Nurse.
Thank you, Camilita. I've got to say, that is probably one of the best introductions I've ever had. I'm going to just capture that and just play that every time I have to go somewhere. That's a lovely boost to my morning. Thank you.
But come on, let's talk about it. You've done quite a lot. Now, I remember seeing you on Escape to the Country, and what I liked about your character there was that you genuinely sounded very happy to help the people, right? That's what it came across. But I'm sure your life didn't start off like that. How did you get involved into all of this? You starting your own law firm, and tell us your backstory.
Yeah, my backstory is, I think it's quite a charming and nice one in that my parents came over from the Caribbean when they were children. So my father is from Barbados, my mother is from Dominica, two islands that I love dearly. My dad was 15 and my mum was 9. So they lived the life of children who were born and then left to be raised by their grandparents, and in my mother's case, by her great-grandmother. And those are the stories I heard when I was growing up. So they were brought up by their grandparents, and my grandparents, their parents, came here in that Windrush generation. And they came here to start new lives. One worked in the NHS. My other grandmother had 8 children here. My mother was the eldest. She had all the other children here. And she was a cleaner in the underground. And my grandfather was a builder. And my other grandfather moved to the America. And I didn't know him for many years. So they started from humble beginnings, but when I think of that story, I think of pioneers, I think of bravery, I think of, they left, my grandmother was 17 and left her little island of Dominica, her tiny village of Point Michelle, and embarked on this adventure. She left her tiny baby who was 3 months old to be raised by a grandmother in the promise, knowing that once she'd built this new life, she was going to send for her daughter. And every year she would send back food and pictures and things. My mum knew the story and then was brought over here. And I brought up with that knowledge that that's what my family have been through for me to be here. And I spoke to my grandmother yesterday. She's 83 now, and I just love talking to her. She's always been that person in my life who has the pearls of wisdom. I read so many books now, but yet I can go back and quote my grandmother on everything. And yesterday she was just doing it again, dropping the bombs. She said, she was talking about something, and she said, but what you think is what you do. What you think is what you are. And she was just chatting generally, but that's how I grew up. So I grew up, we had humble beginnings. My mum and dad worked hard. My mum became a microbiologist. My dad became an engineer. They worked for the NHS and London Transport, but they believed in education. They believed in family. And I truly believe I was taught from a very early age that anything was possible.
Wow.
And I know that is a blessing. I know that not everybody has that.
When you said that's the thing that really spurred you on to become the success that you are, to start up, what got into you, darling, to start a law firm? Talk to me.
Tell me. Well, do you know what? The reason I started law, there's many reasons, and none of it sounds that noble now when I repeat the story. It's not that noble. I wasn't trying to save the world. I was trying to grow out of my circumstances. So while we had a lovely family life, I was raised in East London, in Newham. It was one of the poorest boroughs. We had a lovely home, but I wanted more. We do, like, my mum and dad would take us into the West End for trips, and I would see the shops, and I would see the houses out in Essex and the footballers' houses, and I would be like, yeah, I used to tell my mum, that's what I want. I want one of those. I'm going to live in one of those when I grow up, and all this stuff. So my brain was like, how am I going to get there?
Right.
And at school, I loved English and language and talking, and so I was looking for a career where I could do that and earn money. And then I watched LA Law, which was a legal show back in the 90s, a bit like I think Suits would be now, for people who watch that sort of drama. But it's a legal drama, and it was set in LA, and it had very polished looking people in nice suits in big tall buildings, and they were lawyers, and they could articulate and they could solve a problem. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that. And so that's what sent me on the journey to law. And then I looked into it, and I realized that to become a lawyer, it was a minimum of 6 years training. So you had to do your degree, a year at law school, and then 2 years of a training contract. And when you're like 14, 15, that sounds like a long time.
Yes.
Study. And that was the shortest time. I mean, sometimes it could take 8, 9, 10 years.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, shortest time possible, 6 years. That's what I want.
Wow.
That's what I'm going for. So the law looked like something desirable because it would suit my talents, what I thought were my skills, the things I enjoyed. I was very tuned into what do I enjoy doing, and looking for something that was fun, something that I thought I could excel at, something that I thought would give me opportunity. What I noticed about people who had been lawyers, I mean, I looked up to Nelson Mandela and Gandhi and all these people, inspirational people, and I was like, wow, they trained in law. So law isn't limiting. I now know, obviously, nothing's limiting, but as a child, it seemed this is a career that gives me grounding, but it gives me opportunity.
Right.
And that's what I was drawn to and attracted to. And then once I had that as my focus, then it was just, then the how just kind of unfolds and manifests, and it comes along.
It's amazing how TV can have a positive impact. Because I remember watching, when I was a child, I remember watching Perry Mason. And I started off in law school. I started in Trinidad studying law, and I came to England to finish my law degree, and then I decided to run the world after that. Law school. But it was sort of wrapped up with your background, with the things that you loved, the things that you wanted to do, the things that made sense to you at that point, at that moment. Then why did you sell it?
So why did I start the law firm? Why did I sell it? Sorry, to answer that question. So that's how I got into law. The reason I started a law firm was because when I then got my career in law and I worked in the city and I kind of achieved those dreams, I looked at the law firm and the firms around me, and I looked up to the partnership and thought, this is not for me. I don't see myself doing the road that's going to take me there. The road paved was do this, work hard, and you can be like us. And I was like, well, I don't want to be like you. Why would I want to do that? I mean, there were hardly any women. There were about 50 partners where I was, and only 5 were women. And of those 5 women, only 1 had children. And they weren't celebrated or lauded. It wasn't attractive to you felt like you had to lose something of yourself to reach that. And I respect them all for what they did and their firm, but I thought, well, that's your firm. Maybe I would design my own with my own culture, and that's how I can be a partner. And that was why I started the firm with my co-founder Janvi, because I'd always thought my end of career in law will involve me having my own firm and doing things how I want to do it. But also when I started TV work, I was looking for an avenue where I could do both law and TV, and I couldn't understand why I couldn't do both. And law firms would say, no, you have to be full-time here. Even my job at Sky was like, well, no, you can be a full-time lawyer, or you can be a full-time presenter. They couldn't understand how you could do both.
You kind of like, so you found yourself in a position whereby freedom meant more to you when you realize, as we say, when you've come into your own.
Yes.
You realize that, yes, I wanted the law, but I also wanted flexibility in it. And I wanted not to be in control, but wanted to be able to have more freedom. in doing the things that I love, rather than having the title and not having the freedom with the title. And that's where
nothing.
Would you say that's where so many people find themselves in a trap? They have the title, but not the freedom and the flexibility that goes with it.
Exactly. And the freedom, flexibility comes from within. It's your mindset about what you want and what you, to me, it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Freedom doesn't have to mean I've just given up my job and I've gone off and done something else and I have to run away. But you need to investigate within yourself. What does that mean? What is it I want to be able to do? For me, I wanted to be able to be a lawyer and I wanted to be able to do television. So I needed to find a way to do both. And then when I realized that's what I wanted, I thought other people must want that as well. So the business was about enabling lawyers like myself to do that. So I'm so proud of the people that worked with us. They ran, one has got an amazing franchise business for mums that she ran at the same time. Another was a journalist. She writes for the Times and leading law publications. She did that alongside her legal career, and they were both equal. She didn't have to drop one.
So would you say then,
do both?
Would you say then that you were somehow some sort of pioneer with this whole gig economy? If you understand what I mean, because a lot of people are now talking about the U economy, the gig economy, and they're saying, well, everybody else want a side hustle, do something at the side. And companies now have to allow their employees to do that and sort of empower them to sort of stay in your job and help, but, build your life at the side. Would you say you were a pioneer within your industry?
Absolutely. Janvi and I feel that we were pioneers within that. In 2007, that was really not understood. And most of our journey during that time was educating and talking and demonstrating and being the prototype. Or, I call myself, I say that I had to be the original prototype to show them this is possible. This is possible. I can do high quality legal work and I can be the lady you see on TV doing the weather. It does not challenge my credibility. I had to work on myself on that first because I questioned myself. Is this possible? Will I be credible? Will anyone come to me for legal advice if they've seen me presenting Escape to the Country or the Weather? I realized, yes, they will. By people, like you said, it's about people and connections and what you can deliver and serve to the world. And the more you are in your lane, the more you are expressing your joy and your highest expression of yourself and what you're doing, the true self, the more people are attracted to that and opportunities open up for you. So
let me ask you that question. Stay right there. Let me ask you a question because that is such a powerful point. Because so many people get trapped right in that place. They sort of talk themselves out of what they're going to do because it has never been done before. And so they talk themselves out of it and they think, who am I being a phony? Who am I? Would you say that was one of the biggest challenges you had to face, was working on yourself and understanding and allowing others to understand what you knew you wanted to do? Was that one of your biggest challenges in either transition or building your brands?
I think that is a challenge, but it's an interesting challenge because that one comes up for me and then I do it anyway, So it's like I acknowledge that it's there. I'm not pretending that I'm Superwoman and that I don't have those voices. I don't hear it. And then I go, oh, okay, let's go. let's find out. This is interesting.
I love it. Okay.
So that wasn't so much of a challenge. I think the challenge was because it was new, it was then explaining it to others and not taking their rejection personally. But I had such a belief in what I thought was true and right that I was okay with the rejection, if that makes sense.
Of course.
And so, it wasn't an easy road. So the first time I went back to Sky, which is where I'd been working, and said, hey, I'm setting up a law firm. This is what it's going to be. And I will be able to do legal work for you from my law firm. They said, oh, great, good for you. I said, so will you be a client? They said, no. No. I think that's a great idea. Good luck. But I don't see how you can be a presenter and advise us at the same time. And I was like, okay. And I went away. A few months later, someone else in the team needed help. And they said, we want Denise to help us because we know she can do it. They engaged us and we had a long-standing relationship. There were clients throughout. But you have to have you do have to work on the belief in if you don't believe what you're doing, how is anyone else going to? Because other people
Absolutely.
won't. They won't. They will say no. They will say you're wrong. They will say, and that's they are entitled to that opinion. The opinion that counts is yours.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So then
So
you
why did I
told-
sell? I'm just going to tell you quickly why I sold. I
Yes.
sold because I'd reached the end of that journey. 13 years later, I
Stop.
had accomplished
Stay
what I
right
wanted
there.
to.
Stay right there. There are some people that are listening and thinking, what's wrong with you? I'm like, seriously? Oh, how did you know when it was time? Because there are people listening that thinking, this year in particular, okay, with this is being recorded in 2020, end of. People are going to be listening to this 2021 and beyond. Every day, every year, things change. In particular, it's like there's a cycle. 2010 crash, 2020 pandemic. Seriously, crazy. And some people are thinking, I know I need to change. I need to do something else. I'm a bit scared. I don't know what to do. How did you decide when it was time to shift?
So, in all honesty, we decided about 3 years ago. So it's not like, I think you make these decisions and then you build towards them. It's not always like this instant shift and your whole world has to change. But we did it. I believe in coaching. I believe in who you circulate with and learning from others. And my highest belief is in your own alignment, what feels right, and taking the time out to drop into that. So I practice meditation, I practice prayer, I do certain things to check in with myself on what feels right and what I want to do. And then that voice is loud that there is another calling.
Wow.
Then that is what I listen to and then act from there. And so I don't always know. Who knows? This is the beauty of life. I don't actually know what the next day is going to bring. I have no idea. So I can only work from that basis and then take steps from there. And it looks scary at the time, but like everything you do, it can look scary until you look back and then you understand the meaning of why you did what you did.
Yeah.
So for those anyone who's making decisions now, I believe in just taking the next step. So you have the big goal, but actually what really counts is take the next step. Take the next step and then take the next step. So if you are in a job and you're unsure if you love it or you hate it or you're uncomfortable, okay, well, what's the next step to investigating what else you could do? Just go investigate. Go speak to someone. Maybe get a coach. Maybe have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Maybe start to explore what else you would do. Just take the next step. And then it's not so scary. Just one step at a time.
And you talked about something which was really powerful. You talked about coaching. You talked about the power of a coach. I'm a coach, you're a coach. We coach entrepreneurs to build their lives and build their brands and build their businesses and create. Why is it did you have a coach? I know your parents have been amazing coaches and your grandmom, you mentioned her. But why is it that people need to understand more so? Everybody needs a coach. Every athlete has a coach. And the average person in life don't have one. Why is it crucially important that people reach out if they need help?
It's so important. It's so fascinating to me how little attention people pay to their minds. It is our most superpower organ that is in our bodies. This, what our brains can do, we don't even know. There's so much in there. And yet we will pay for the gym. We will pay for this. We will look at our nutrition. We will get our shelter. And we will pay close to zero to manage and to protect and to empower.
Right
and
that's a million dollar idea right there. That is powerful. What you just said right there. Powerful. Wow.
It's so important. And I think there are ways. If you are religious, you will have, your religion, you might have your pastor, your priest, your imam, and, you'll have someone, your rabbi, that you would have gone to reflect and to do that sort of mind work. I think all of that still stands, but I think there is a growing industry, and I think it's important to tap into another perspective. Our minds are fascinating, but they can also lead us down little alleys that we get stuck in. And sometimes all you want is someone else to just reflect another perspective to you. The work comes from you, but a coach can help you see something different, can help you see a different way, can help your mind open up to possibilities. I've had several coaches, paid for and natural, as you say, in my family, and learn all the time from all of them. Even when you think, what was that about? Did I learn anything? Well, we had a conversation.
Who would you say then has been your best coach? No, I won't say best, but has had the most impact on your life as a coach?
Oh, as a coach. So I would say my grandmother.
I would say my mother.
Yeah, I'd say my grandmother and then my mum. They are awesome coaches,
Oh.
awesome coaches. Like, and I say for my gran, it comes naturally. Like, I need to get her book written because she's just got all these golden nuggets. She wakes up, she sings, she decides to be happy. She makes a decision and then she does that. She's very clear about what she's doing. She lives like a champion, as you would say, in my mind. No matter what life is throwing at her, she's just
up for the challenge.
Finds the way to deal with it.
That. You got part of that. That's why you're so tenacious with wanting to build. Two questions before we close up. Now, you won all of these awards, okay? And clearly because of the work in which you've done and how you worked on yourself and built all these different businesses. But why was diversity and inclusion such a key part of what you did? And we'll come to the hub in a minute. Why is it so important to you as a woman, as a Black woman?
That's a good question. I guess it's so important to me because of for spending so long being the only one in the room.
Right.
So long. So where I grew up, it was very diverse. So my first 11 years, of life and at school in Forest Gate in East London, so diverse. My school had people from all over the world, a Catholic school, Irish, English, African, Caribbean, Filipino, just everything. So that was my world. Then at 11, I went to an independent school just 3 miles down the road in Essex because I was doing well at school. My parents thought, hey, let's put you forward for this selective school, and I got in. And that was the first time I experienced being I think I was one of 2 Black girls in a class of 20, which was actually a lot. There were 2 of us. And then it went on from there. The more I chose this elusive career of law, I went off to Liverpool for university. I was one of 4 Black people among 200 students in the intake that year. And I was the only Black student who had done their A-levels and left school and gone to uni. The other 3 Black students, 2 were international adults and mature students, and 1 was a mature student from the local area. I was like, where are all the other just kids who want to do law, who've decided to go to a red brick university? So it's been something that I'm always aware of because I've often been the only one or one of 2 or one of 3. And so I find it fascinating how these organizations can be successful, can be as good as they can be without a diversity of people. I know the richness that comes from having different opinions and different voices and different experiences. And I know the people they're trying to serve come from so many different areas and backgrounds. So I just think it's the best for everyone. It's actually not a challenging thing. It's just, this is good for everyone. If we have only one group of people doing one group of things from a similar background, and in law in particular, it has been that way for a long time, if you've been to Oxbridge and if you've been to a certain school and if you speak a certain way and if you've studied certain subjects, then you fit here. Well, yes, but then how much more are you missing?
Exactly. I mean, come on, just the food alone they're missing. The
food, the conversation, everyone does the same stuff. It's just so limiting. And why be limiting when you can be, there's so much more richness to get.
Do you know what, Denise? This moment right now, with this global pandemic, has taught the world how small the world actually is. And it has taught us in the world how we are so intertwined. Because one situation happened in China, literally the entire planet, every race, every color, everything was affected. What does that tell us? So when we're in our own little world, in our own little mind, we simply can't even fathom the impact that the world is having on the world.
Exactly. And I was just listening to the Reef Lectures just now on Radio 4, which I love every year, the Reef Lectures. And this year it's Mark Carney, and he's talking about the economics and everything that he's been through. And that's what I came away from that lecture this morning thinking, reminded of the same thing, like how important collaboration is, how important being able to work together across the world is. And this year I think is fascinating for that reason, because on the one hand there's been so much insular, like we can't travel, we can't move, you have to stay in your own little bubble, and all this very exclusive language about staying away. But on the other hand, we cannot overcome this on our own. The only way you can overcome it, this vaccine they found was created in America, made in Germany or something, shipped from Belgium. It was crazy. We're the first to use it, and then it's going to be deployed everywhere, and that's just one of them. You don't do it on your own. No. You can't move forward on your own. You need to work together, and it needs all of our collective minds and brains, and how mighty powerful it is. So that's one of the reasons I'm so into diversity and inclusion. The other reason particularly with Black people, I think, so although I focus on Black people because I'm Black and I'm a woman, partly it's because of the statistics that come out repeatedly that often show that for various reasons we're doing worst in the statistics in education, in health, in housing, and some of that is systemic racism in my view. But my view about how you overcome it is to empower people. Absolutely. And by empowering one group, you're empowering all. I don't think it's exclusive in that sense. Like, by the tools and the things you put in place to help one will help all. Yeah. So somebody helped us, or whether it's our parents or teacher or someone helped us to believe bigger and to believe faster, and so we need to sort of pay that forward to other adults and young people so that they understand there is room at the top. Exactly. And for me, I'm fascinated with the results. I love education. I do a lot with education, but at the moment, my now calling is actually there's a lot of adults who get stuck. Yes. I think they've got it figured, but they're stuck. Yes. And they're accepting mediocrity, and they're accepting limitations, and they're believing that that's just how it is, and that's just what I have to do to get through. And it's not true. Absolutely. It's not true. And although there are these outside conditions and there are things that can go wrong, there's so much more you can do when you change your beliefs. Absolutely. Put yourself forward. And impact others. Okay, one last question, and then we're gonna just get you to tell people how they can get in touch with you. This Founders Hub, what is this about? I've seen you promoting this all over social media, and you with some other people. What I know this is just sort of your new project or the next big thing. Tell us about it, and what is it about, and how can people get involved if they do want to? Absolutely. So Black Founders Hub is a peer networking group for Black founders of professional services businesses. So it's quite specific. The reason it's come into being is because, having had my journey of building a law firm, growing, scaling, and selling, I know it can be done, and I want to encourage others to do the same. So one of my solutions to the diversity problem is, rather than us stepping forward, inching forward to get another Black partner in a well-established firm, and then we've got two rather than one. And I'm not saying not to do that. I think that work is happening and it should happen. My vision is, why don't we create our own firms where actually the majority of partners are already diverse? Yes. Why wouldn't you have 5 Black partners and 5 Black, and they're all women, and then you have someone who, you've just got people from all over, a much more diverse collective to start with. Yes. Rather than trying to change the status quo. And I also, having looked at the stats over the summer, realized that there are a lot of, this was focused on law, but this is about all professionals, that we often start businesses but stay small. Will be one founder, one partner, or maybe 2, and stay small and local. And I just think there's such an opportunity there to collaborate, to merge partnerships, to work together, which is how law traditionally works. Why aren't we doing that more collectively and building each other up? The third reason is that I know that peer networking works. I've used it myself. That was a very instrumental factor in the growth of my business. I worked with other women who were CEOs and founders of their businesses at a certain level. So again, it's about thinking big and then having the right people around you. Yes. to help you. And then it's focused on Black because of the issues I talked about before. So the journey of Black people, it can be quite specific in terms of the challenges that are faced. And so having a safe space to bring that, you can start the conversation at a certain level and move on, rather than having to explain yourself all the time. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm focused on professional networks because that's what I know. I think there's a lot of opportunity for change. If we were more prominent in finance, more prominent in law, more prominent in consultancies and those areas, that power helps to help other people. So by growing our businesses and making them, we're looking to help people get to 7-figure turnovers and beyond. yes, money's important. I really think it's important. You know, you can't help anyone if you haven't got the money to do it.
Absolutely.
You can't pay your own rent. How do you help? You can, but in a limited way. So let's get ourselves together. Let's empower ourselves, and then we can do so much more collectively. So the vision is to create over £1 billion worth of income that will go towards our general economy, that's built from Black professionals coming together and building their businesses.
I love it. I mean, is it sort of just focused on professionals? If somebody comes in and says, well, I've got a traditional business, I kind of really want to work with you guys. I mean, what would you say to that person?
I'd say bring your application. You know, this is, with everything, I'm always open. I believe you can move faster when you focus. So I'm starting with the focus. You get it right, and then you can scale. So bring the ideas. Let me see it. And there's always blurred lines.
I'm asking you because I'm thinking there's a couple of people's coming to mind.
Yeah, it depends what it is. There are blurred lines. There are blurred lines, and so it's not very clear.
Coming to line who've got very successful businesses doing multi-millions already, and I'm thinking just the connection, just the networking part of it.
Well, we're looking for them to be fellows. So what I want from that community is to be able to come and pay it back and to speak to these groups. So these groups will be people who are, you know, they're in business already, but maybe their turnover is just about to hit 6 figures, or they're trying to get to 6 figures first, and then they're moving up. So the groups are for people at that stage who are looking for that aspiration. So the speakers then come saying, hey, we've done this before. This is how we did it, and share their stories.
Well, I've got some interest. I'll make some interest. So last but not least, how can people get in touch with you if they want to get involved?
Oh, if you want to get involved, it's easy. It's blackfoundershub.com. That's the website. So you can find us there. There's all the information, and you can contact us. And my email is denisenurse@outlook.com. Pretty simple. So you can always find me as well. I'm on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. And we will share that information with everybody. Denise, it was an absolute pleasure with you today. I tell you, I'm super excited. I am excited. You sort of tell me so much about what my own life was.
Camilita, I've had the best time. I feel like we could talk for hours. And this is what I love. I know this is what you love. This is why partly why you do this, right? You're sharing conversation. We're sharing information. We're sharing wisdom. You learn from each other, and you bring the joy, and you just get a bit of that inspiration to help you take that next step.
Yes, absolutely.
Take that
next step. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. My God. If you're not inspired to get off your assets and do something with your life, then I don't know what will. Denise shared some really powerful tips. She talked about, and I think this is the one thing that I got. She talked about the more you stay in your lane and allow your true self to come out, the more people in the end will attribute that this is who you are. She talked about giving opportunities. You know, the gig economy today is huge, but is wanting to be flexible. She wanted to have freedom. How much do you want to have freedom? How much do you want to be in a place whereby you know what you know? And you know, the challenge she mentioned about always having to explain to people, but getting yourself to the point where you don't have to explain, that you just be. This is who you are. And the most important thing she said for people is taking that next step. Just take the step. Just take the step. And last but not least, she talked about the Black Founders Hub. If you are interested and you want to know how you too can be a part of something amazing that's growing, go to blackfoundershub.com. Find Denise on LinkedIn. She's all over social media. Email her at denisnurse@outlook.com and get cracking. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. Whenever you're listening to this, you can take the chance. You can take the decision today to truly live like a champion. This is Camilita here from the Camilita Podcast saying, I'll see you soon. And as always, you know, I will see you at the top. Right, that's it.